I am so excited to welcome our next guest. Her name is Roxann Lloyd, and she is an interior designer who lives in Colorado. Welcome, Roxann.
Thank you.
I know that right now, with everybody being stuck in their home, some of us for weeks at a time now, one of the big things on our mind is interior design because, that we're used to a changing scenery, and now that we're stuck inside, it really puts the focus on our surroundings.
Oh yeah.
So, go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, I was going to tell you, so typically in design, when you're talking about vendors and furnishings and stuff, there is a territory that vendors will have that covers Kansas, Colorado, Wyoming, Arizona, sometimes Utah. And they always tell us that Colorado is their toughest territory because we're outside so much that they have a hard time selling furniture. Whereas Kansas, Nebraska, Oklahoma, people are inside a lot more. And so they're dealing with this. Well, now Coloradans, we're stuck inside too. And nowhere else to go. So it's like, that stuff that you were like, I'll get to that someday. Now it just irritates you because you don't get away from it.
It's all that we're seeing now. Yes, absolutely. So how did you get involved in interior design? Because I know you have a unique approach where you're taking a person's unique personality and vision and showing them how to decorate to express their own personality. Right. Where did that come from for you?
Yeah, so I went to college, to an interior design school, and got a college degree in interior design. Because even at a young age, I knew how much my surroundings affected me, and I knew that I wanted to help people with that. And I wanted to help create a sense of peace and calm. And in offices, I wanted to help people be more efficient and more productive. And in restaurants, I wanted people to feel more at ease and energized by the conversation and the food and the entire experience. So I knew at a young age, I was 4 when I ran away from home because my siblings were considered 9 and 13 years older than me. And I was outside playing one day and I came back in the house and they were rearranging the living room. And I was like, oh, I know what you should do. And I got shooed out. And I was so mad. And so I went and I packed a little bag and I slammed the front door and I'm huffing down the driveway and I turn on and nobody's paying attention. I had to slam the door 3 times before I knew what you're doing. So anyway, she lures me back and it's really, my mom loved to tell that story when I was in design school to all my professors because she's like, even then she had opinions.
She knew her calling.
So after design school, I started working at office furniture dealerships and I worked commercially in offices and things like that. And so I worked here and I worked overseas in Russia. When I came back, I started doing residential. I worked for a residential interior design firm. And I went to a continuing education course one day and there were like 30 other designers in there. And I could tell most of them were there just because they needed the credit. And they're sitting on their phones, they're doing emails, they're doing whatever, but there's only like 3 of us really that were paying attention. And as I'm sitting there, I'm like, I just suddenly had all of this emotion and I totally felt at peace and calm because she was taking us through exercises. She was a design psychologist and she was taking us through exercises that were
design psychologist.
Yeah. She was helping us to understand why we liked the things that we liked and why we were drawn to those things and where that comes from within, from our history and our past. And I was like, oh my goodness, at one point I started to tear up at the very end of it. And everybody else just gets up and takes it. Yeah. And I was like, this is how I want to work with my clients. This is how I want my clients to feel. And I'd already was sort of doing some of those things because that's just innately who I am. And I was getting to know people and that's how I like to be. But I was like, okay, there are actual concrete exercises and actions I can take to help my clients to feel this relaxed and self-confident in their own style, even if they think they don't have a style, because ultimately we all do. And my belief is that everyone should feel confident in that and that they don't need to look to their mother or their neighbor or their sister or a magazine to get their confidence. They need to get it from within. And so I want to help people with that.
I love that. I know when I've gone through the process of decorating our home, I found myself looking on Pinterest or, magazines or what's popular now. And oftentimes just buying whatever was, on the display at Target because, that kind of drew my eye or that's kind of popular now. And the issue with decorating that way is it gets dated and there isn't a personal connection. So suddenly it's like, I just had that, little statue of the horse or whatever sitting there because that's what was cool back then. But there isn't that safety or personalism to it. So I love that concept of figuring out your style.
Yeah, the other thing that happens when people buy things from the store is that they see, like, you could go into the store and they have this huge, beautiful bouquet of all these, silk flowers. And they've got them in this giant vase. And you're like, I love that. And you can only afford to buy 3. So you take them home and it's just never the same. And it's like, well, no, because you didn't merchandise it with everything else around it. And you didn't really buy 140 of those sunflowers and, those kinds of things. So,
absolutely.
and you're very right. That is the fact that it does look dated and it does age. I think that if somebody came into my house right now, unless they looked at my bathroom and my kitchen, they're hard surfaces. That's what we call them, hard surfaces. Your countertops, your cabinets, your tile floors, those kinds of things. They wouldn't be able to know what era or what time, how long ago I decorated, except for those 2 spots, because my surroundings are so personal to who I am that it's just a story of my life. Like I have all of these collections of things I have from traveling. And so what I do with my clients is I take them through, usually it's a 3 kind of step process. I help them to discover what their style is and where that comes from and why they like the things they like. And I help them to get the confidence in that. Okay. I help educate them on what are their options within that range of what they like. Mm-hmm. And then I help them to implement it.
Oh,
so
cool.
Are you up for a little bit of an exercise?
I would love that.
Okay, you're not going to sweat, so don't worry about it.
Okay.
So if the first exercise that I take everybody through is I want you to kind of close your eyes.
Oh, I don't need a pencil?
Not yet.
Okay.
I want you to close your eyes and I want you to think about when you were a child, before the age of, say, 10. Where was there a place? Was it your bedroom? Was it your grandma's kitchen? Was it a library? Was it your schoolroom? Was it out in the yard? Is there some place that you can place yourself where you felt completely alive and like no other place, that you were always drawn to go there? Did you feel excited and yet calm at the same time? Did you feel like you could take on the world and you could be anybody you wanted to and you felt completely safe in doing that? Is there some place that you can kind of think about that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I want you to write that down.
Okay.
And then I want you to kind of draw it, if you can kind of sketch it. And again, and nobody's going to see this. Adults get so worried about like, oh my goodness, it's not going to look right. I don't care. Nobody's going to see it. You're just doing this for yourself, right? And then I take people through the process of asking questions about this. So we'll just ask you a few questions so that people can kind of get an idea. And then when this is all
over, we're all drawing our separate spaces. Okay.
Yeah, right. And it's just a quick little floor plan, or I don't know, one time I had somebody, they were like, it was a tree house. I'm like, great, then draw the tree house. Like do whatever you need to do, whether it's got to be a elevation, which is looking at it straight on, whether it's a floor plan where you're looking at it at a bird's eye view and it's how things look from above, whatever makes sense for you. It doesn't have to be a masterpiece. It doesn't have to be a perspective, whatever you want to do.
Okay, I am done.
Okay. Now, I want you to write a couple things. I want you to tell me what was on the floor or on the ground.
I'm writing this or telling you?
You can write it down and then you can tell me.
Okay.
So was it carpet? Was it tile? Was it grass? Was it concrete? Or was it rocks?
So for me, it's carpet.
Okay. What color was your carpet?
A really ugly mustard yellow, like that golden ochre or whatever from the 70s.
Yeah, right. Okay. What was on your walls? What room was this, first off? Do you mind sharing that?
No, not at all. This is my bedroom, my childhood bedroom.
Okay. What color were your walls? Do you remember?
I want to say, and this sounds horrible, but I believe they were baby blue, which didn't match the carpet, but it matched the bedspread and the curtains.
Okay. Okay. So write that down.
Okay.
Write about, and then later what I'll have you do is on your own. You can actually write about the bedspread and the drapes and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And then was there a lot of light in the room?
Somewhat. Yeah, we had one window.
Okay. Okay. So if you do that normally, so then what I can do is I will send out, and I'm happy to send this to people if they're interested. At the end, we can get their information and I'll send them my questionnaire that I go through with people and kind of guide and direct them through it.
Okay.
But this oftentimes will tell me, like I had a couple one time, we were working in their living room and they had this 2-story fireplace that they wanted to put stone on or some sort of different kind of finish. And so he kept looking at stacked stone that had a lot of texture to it. And she kept wanting to do something that was a lot smoother. And we were looking at in the stacked stone area, but they just both wanted different kinds of texture. So we've been kind of butting our heads up on some things. And so I said, all right, let's do this because I haven't done it with you yet. And I apologize, I should have done it sooner. But I said, tell me about your room. So he told me about his family room that he loved because that's where the whole family gathered to watch TV and play games and read books. And so he takes me through and he tells me all about it. And I said, okay, you like texture because you just told me that the walls are brick, that the fireplace was a different kind of stone, that you had carpet, that you loved the leather sofa. I started taking him through all the things and he's like, you're totally right. I do love texture. And his wife goes, that's why you always want the rough stack stone and I want the smooth. And he goes, oh yeah, I guess you're right. That's why. And she goes, okay, I'm totally fine with it. Like she goes, I thought you just wanted the rough because you wanted to be in opposition to me. And she goes, now I understand.
So you're a marriage counselor too.
Oh, yeah. I actually considered getting my master's in counseling just because I do that so much.
I bet. But that's such a neat way to understand, like with a spouse, where they're coming from, as opposed to, it being a personal thing.
Yeah. Well, and so then the wife, we had her do hers, and she talked about this house that they moved into that was a model home, and they were the first ones to own it after the developer was done with it. They moved in and she's like, I just loved this room. She goes, it was the formal living room. It had raspberry wallpaper. It had raspberry carpet. The sofa was a slightly different colored raspberry. She's like, it was all of this stuff. And I went, that totally makes sense. You keep telling me you want to do green. And yet when we're looking through fabrics and paint colors, the first thing out of your mouth is like, look at that. That's so pretty. And I go, it's always on raspberry. And she starts to laugh and she goes, wait a second. She goes into her office. She comes back out. She goes, I just had my new cards made and I changed my branding. Her logo was raspberry. That's her colors.
My word.
Her business color raspberry and orange. And I said, you keep trying to do this other thing and it doesn't fit who you are. You're always drawn to this. And she's like, okay. She goes, now I get it. I said, so we can do the greens and things. I said, but we've got to make the raspberry work or you'll never be happy. And she was like, okay, yeah. And so that's what we did. We got him the rough on the fireplace and got her the green on the walls. And then we got pillows and some artwork that had her raspberry. And they were totally happy. They were so excited that we'd done that because we were able to draw out who they were and why. So they had an understanding. So they weren't just trying to go with what was in the magazines and what everybody else was doing. It really was their own.
Mm-hmm. And it sounds like if she had gone with all the greens for whatever reason she wanted that, she probably wouldn't have been happy with it in the long term, maybe wanting to change it.
Right. She would never have been satisfied. And it's really about being satisfied and being satiated. It's just like food. Our eyes are another sense and we need to be satiated visually. So if you maybe think, oh, I'd love to live in this really stark white everything, but you're kind of a messy person that loves color at the same time. I love looking at photos on Instagram and everything that are all white, but I'm like, I could never live there. Like I could go stay a weekend, but I don't want to have to live there. That's just not who I am. Yeah. So after I take them through a series of little exercises like that, then my next step is to educate them. So normally what we would do is I would learn about their, the particular room, or maybe it's a whole house design or something like that. And then I would educate them within their range of what they're wanting to, what their style is and what look they want to express.
Mm-hmm.
Then I educate them on what their options are. So for people at home, if they're wanting to do this for themselves, then what I would suggest is you go on Pinterest, or you go on houzz.com, which is HOUZZ.com.
Okay.
And you can Google, or you can put in the search bar home office, because I'm thinking that potentially with all the people that are working from home now, and if you're not used to it, that
we need a space that looks good.
Yeah, and also now we're doing all these Zoom calls and Google Duo and all of these things where people are seeing in our homes for the first time, and you want to reflect a personal yet professional balance between those two. And you can't just have, I mean, the kids are going to come in and not and run around, whatever. But you want to kind of present a good front.
You're 100% right. Yeah.
So if you look on Pinterest and if you're looking on Houzz and you're going through and you're like, I like that, I like that. Well, now that you've got a little bit better understanding of maybe why you like what you like and how you can, now you're looking at pictures, look for commonalities. You know what? All these pictures have rounded, large pieces of furniture. I like round. I like curvilinear shapes. Or maybe you have all this really modern, straight kind of furniture that you love that don't have big arms and that kind of thing. You're more of a minimalist. Then when you're thinking about implementing that in your home, that's what you need to stick for. You need to continue to look for consistencies in all of the photos. You might find that every photo you have has hardwood floors and you have carpet at home. Well, then you have to figure out, how is that going to happen? Or you might find that you love lots of texture and you maybe have one wall in your house that you could have behind you in a Zoom call that's brick.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe you've got a bookshelf that you can take out a lot of the books and just kind of color coordinate it, do whatever kind of fits your personality. But in this case, since I'm not there with you to educate, I think you have to educate yourself and just look through images and learn about how other people have done that. That would be the kind of second point.
It's excellent advice. And I never thought about, like you were saying, the curved furniture with the big arms or the thin. I don't know if I would naturally know what to look for, but I love the concept of narrowing that down because it takes away some of that overwhelm of going to the furniture store and it's like, there's 100 couches, I have no idea.
Yes.
But when I want square arms or I want a dark color, right, that really helps narrow it down and makes it easier. So yes. Could you tell me a couple more of those things to look for? I like that.
Yeah. So if you just make a list of, you're sitting and you're looking through, or you maybe already know this about yourself. You write down, I like straight arms, or I like curvy arms. I like large, oversized furniture. I like smaller, more petite furniture. I hate buttoned. I hate tufting on things. I like smooth. I like wood, so I want to do a mix of woods. I want wood legs on my sofa. I want to be able to see that. Let's see. I love, it's the lighting. Are you someone that loves lots of light colors? Are you like bold colors? What, consistent things that you're seeing in the pictures. I would just look for patterns. So if you're a person that's like, I'm a scientist and I'm all about math and numbers, you're also about patterns. So look for the patterns that and I'm not talking visual pattern. I'm talking, what are the patterns from picture to picture to picture that you are consistent on? And that's not to say that you can't like both. Like a lot of times will go with clients and I'll say, okay, we're going to go look at tile or we're going to look at furniture or whatever it is. And I will say, all right, we're going to go in here. You're going to be overwhelmed. You look at me. You don't look at anything else. You look at me. And they always laugh. And I say, I'm serious. And so we walk into wherever and they're like, oh, I'm so overwhelmed. And I'm like, right here.
Back here.
They're like, okay. And it's totally fine. They'll say, that is so beautiful. And I'll say, that is really beautiful. But you know what? We have decided that you are more drawn to rectilinear shapes. And so that is a circle, and that is not going to make you happy over the long run. You can like that, We can come back here and you can look at that as much as you like, but we're not going to buy it. We're not going to spend your money on it and take it home because it's ultimately not going to make you as happy.
I love that. Really smart. That's great advice. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So then when we implement things, there are,
and this is the third step, the implement?
Yeah.
Okay.
Third step is to implement. And because I'm not there holding your hand and walking you through this, I will give you some tips on things to do for your home office. Again, this is just going to be for your home office on a Zoom call. So I would look for the space that maybe has enough going on that it's of interest, but not so much that people are going to be distracted. Because I've been on Zoom calls, I'd say for 2 months now, I've been on quite a few of them. And a lot of people, it's in their office and they've got stacks of papers and jam-packed bookshelves, or I'm looking at their ceiling because for some reason the computer is down below them and it's shooting up and I'm seeing like their eyes, their forehead in the ceiling. So let's make sure. So what I did is I have these 2 prints. These are 2 of my favorite prints in the world. They're in my living room. So I have set up my computer station here so that you get that shot so that it's calm and yet it shows just enough of my personality. You can see that I'm into botanicals. You can see that I'm into red, but it's not so much that you're distracted.
Yeah, you're right.
So I like what you have going on behind you too. You've got the blue. It's great with your eyes. It's great with your blue dress. And you have just enough little things going on that I don't always have to look straight at you. There's enough little kind of stuff to look at, but I'm not completely distracted and I don't feel like your house is a mess.
Okay, good. So I did a good job here, huh?
Yeah, it's really good because your house could be a mess. I don't care, but it's
We've been home with endless time. It is immaculate right now.
Yes. I saw a Facebook post somebody put, all that time I kept saying I was too busy and I couldn't clean. It turns out that's not why I wasn't cleaning.
It really wasn't the excuse.
Yeah. Another thing, if you're not used to working from home, I remember when I left the kind of corporate world and started working for myself, I am a high extrovert. I live alone. I was like, oh, where do I? Because then it was just this, you've got this free flow of personal into professional and it just kind of gets off.
Yes.
And even if people are like, I don't have that luxury, I've got 3 screaming kids and my spouse is at home, I can't take this anymore. You need to define space. So if you're lucky enough and that's an office, then I would suggest going in, shutting the door. You're in your office mode, you're doing your office things. And when you come out, you're on personal time. If you don't have that luxury and you just have to have a table, then I would suggest you clear off one section of the table and that is your office. And maybe what you need to do is have a tray that you put all your office stuff on and you just come in and you go and you
That's a great idea. I love that. The tray.
Yeah, so you can take it and leave it. I also, this is something I just discovered this a couple weeks ago when I was at a conference in Milwaukee. I was talking with 2 gentlemen and they were discussing their offices and like they were wanting to get tips and stuff. And I said, I have 2 desks. One is my messy desk and one is my clean desk. And one of them went, say more. And I was like, well, I am a stacker. That's just the way I am. And I have to have a space where I can be messy. It's part of my creativity. I sort, and I heard this in they did a study and I need to find the study because I was driving and I heard it and I was like, I got to write that down. But they did a study, people that are stackers are actually just as organized as anybody else because the more relevant items stay on the top. And as you don't need things, they sort themselves naturally to the bottom. I can tell you where everything is on my desk, on my messy desk. I know exactly where everything is. But at the same time, I also need a clean desk to go and do the really concentrating kind of work. So when I have to go figure out what I'm going to do, I have to have that space and I keep that cleared off. And when I'm like doing the more kind of creative, like dropping things and having samples and papers and, my carpet samples and my fabric samples and my tile samples, those are all on my messy desks. And I just go and I grab them and I take them off. And I have client files that are actually boxes. So maybe that is what you need to do, because maybe your spouse is a messy and you are not, or vice versa. Maybe their stack at the end of the day goes into a bin and it goes off the dining room table and they take it into someplace else. And that way you're not looking at it, but yet every morning they can take it back out and you're not messing up their system too much.
That is such a great idea. I like that 2-desk option also. That makes so much sense.
And my second desk is my kitchen table.
Is that the messy or clean?
Yeah. The messy one is in the office where I can close the door.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah. That way nobody has to see it. No, the clean desk is my kitchen table. Yeah. Yeah. I also have an office out of my house, and that is also the clean desk. And I do that mostly because I don't want to annoy my office mates. They're architects and I don't want to annoy them, and they're all pretty much clean all the time. And I'm like, okay, I have to go home and work because I got to get messy.
Right, follow their example.
Yeah, yeah. And then I would say one final thing that really doesn't have anything to do with interior design, just personal experience from having worked at home for over a decade now. You need to leave the house. Like you've got to go ahead and get dressed to some level of professionalism. And then you've got to walk out the door and then come back in. Sometimes I'll take a walk around the block. Sometimes I will just walk out to my car, grab something out of my car that I don't really need. You know what I mean? Just leave the house and come back in. It just resets my brain and my framework. And I know that's not interior design. That's just personally having worked from home for so long.
But it makes a lot of sense because when you're looking at something all the time, you get used to it. It's like when you go on vacation and then you come home and you're like, oh my gosh, it's either way better than I thought, or this is way worse than I thought, or, you've had that time away. It gives you a fresh look.
Right.
I have taken so many notes, Roxann.
Oh, good.
So it sounds to me like when you take the time to decorate in a way that's authentic to you, it might take a little bit more work or effort to discover that instead of just, going through Target and throwing everything in.
Yeah.
But I can see that it makes your decorations an investment because you're not going to get tired of them. You've made the right choice. It's something that you're going to love and likely have forever because it's so meaningful to you.
Right. And hopefully the goal is also, one, it'll save you money. Because one of the other exercises I take people through is it helps me understand their value system. And it helps me, and then I'm able to articulate that back to them. And they say, oh yeah, right. Like my sister and I, for instance, we were having this discussion. We actually have a value of quality. I have a girlfriend that has a value of style. Not that I don't have that value, but her is kind of fast fashion. Like she's want to be on trend and that's what she wants to do. Great. Target is great for her. TJ Maxx is great for her. My sister and I are about quality. We actually have antiques that are passed down from our family. We go to estate sales and auctions and buy quality pieces of furniture that we couldn't afford if it was new, but yet if it's older and it's a higher quality, nobody else wants it, then we're getting it at a good price. I have a china cabinet that I bought for $200 off of Craigslist. It was the ugliest color wood you've ever seen, but I loved the lines of it. So I brought it home, I stripped it, I painted it. It's this great gray, and the inside is a blue Tiffany color on the inside. I keep all of my knickknacks and travel things in there. And again, that is, rather than getting kind of what I call inauthentic pieces from Target, I'm buying authentic pieces from my travels around life, whether they're hand-me-downs from my grandmother or my mother, or I picked them up on when I lived overseas or when I went on a trip, or it's from an artist friend of mine. I always look for authentic elements that feel real because the vibration that they carry is higher than things that are knockoffs. And I'm all about raising the vibration and having a really great, calming, peaceful energy in my house. And so I'm saving money because I'm not staying on trend. I am showing my friends more of who I am by having these elements that reflect me. And so when people come in, I have a girlfriend, she's like, I love to come over because I feel like I'm just being hugged by Roxann just by being in your space. And that ultimately is the highest compliment anyone can pay me.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I want this for myself. So we went through the visual. I
Mm-hmm.
have an idea of my space,
Mm-hmm.
and you asked some guiding questions with that. Where can I go from here? Like, how do I start to tap into this myself? You said you had some extra questions, or
Yeah.
what's
So
your advice?
yeah, for anybody that's interested, if they want to send me their email address, I am happy to send. I have a
Actually,
PDF.
I can link it. I can link underneath them. Go
Okay,
ahead.
good. I'll send that to you then. And it'll be, again, it'll be this exercise with some questions, and then it'll be another exercise with some questions. And you can take yourself through that.
Okay.
You start to have a little bit better understanding. I take people through a series of about, was it 9 exercises I think I do with people. So I'll give you the first couple and you can kind of do it on your own. And it's really the first 3 of the 9 that I do are about your history and your past and where things come from. Because I take you through a series of where in your past are you getting your interests? Currently, how are you living and what are those kinds of things? How does that impact your style?
Mm-hmm.
And then for the future, how do you hope that your future will be as you're redecorating or you're moving into a new house or you're, those kinds of things. So I'll send you the past questions that I ask people.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Roxann. I love your insight and this unique concept that you have for interior design. And I look forward to putting that into action here in my space. I'm in the process of redecorating my office. And I know everyone watching this is probably looking at the back of, behind them for their Zoom calls, because I think that is such an important thing right now with everybody and their mother being on Zoom, having that great background. Do you have any other tips, tricks, words of wisdom before we?
Well, I would say do a test run on yourself and open up whatever camera you have and see what people see behind you. Because like I actually had something sitting up here on my sofa a minute ago, and I couldn't see it, but you saw it, and so I moved it. So there's just things that you think you've done as best you can, and then suddenly there's like, oh, why is that there?
That's a really good idea, because it's also different going from 3-dimensional to 2-dimensional. So
Mm-hmm.
looking at it in the way that the people seeing you are going to see it is
Right.
really, yeah. Okay. Well, awesome. Thank you so much, Roxann. I appreciate you being here and hope that you're staying safe and encouraged as you're in your incredible environment that you've created for yourself.
Thank you. You
Yeah.
too.
Thanks.
Okay. Bye.
Take care.